The day my parents cut me out of their will, I thought the betrayal couldn't get any worse. Then, while clearing out an old storage room, I found a sealed letter hidden behind a wall, a letter that explained why my brother had always been their favorite. What I read changed everything. My name is Daniel Carter, and for most of my life, I believed family loyalty meant sacrifice. I was 39 years old when I learned that loyalty doesn't always get rewarded. Sometimes it gets exploited. The story began 12 years earlier. Back then, my parents were on the verge of losing their house. The house sat on a quiet street outside a small town where everybody knew everybody else's business. It wasn't fancy, but it was the home where my brother Ryan and I had grown up. My father, Thomas Carter, had spent 30 years working construction. My mother, Linda Carter, worked part-time at a dental office. When the economy took a downturn, Dad's hours were cut. A year later, he injured his back. Everything spiraled from there. Medical bills piled up, mortgage payments fell behind, collection notices started arriving every week. I still remember the evening Dad called me. "Son," he said quietly. His voice sounded broken. "We might lose the house." At the time, I was 27. Newly married, trying to build my own future. My wife Emily and I had just started saving for our first home. We weren't rich, not even close. But I couldn't imagine my parents becoming homeless. "How much do you need?" I asked. Dad hesitated. Then he told me. The amount nearly made me choke, but I said yes anyway. That first payment was supposed to be temporary, just enough to help them get back on their feet. At least that's what everyone promised. Months turned into years. Years turned into more years. Before I realized it, I wasn't helping with the mortgage. I was paying it every month without fail. Ryan, meanwhile, contributed almost nothing. My younger brother was charming. Everybody loved Ryan, especially my parents. He always had an excuse. He was starting a business, then recovering from a failed business, then finding himself, then moving, then changing careers, then dealing with stress. There was always something, and somehow every excuse worked. Whenever I questioned it, Mom would smile. Ryan just needs a little more time. A little more time became 12 years, 12 years of payments, 12 years of sacrifices, 12 years of postponing dreams. Emily and I delayed vacations, delayed buying a larger home, delayed having children. Because every month that mortgage came first. Family came first. At least that's what I believed. Then everything changed. It happened at my parents' anniversary dinner, their 50th anniversary. The entire family gathered at an expensive restaurant downtown. Ryan arrived late, as usual, wearing designer clothes, driving a luxury SUV. Meanwhile, Emily and I sat there wondering how we'd pay for a new roof on our house. The irony wasn't lost on me. Halfway through dinner, Dad stood up. He tapped his glass. "I have an announcement." Everyone applauded. Dad smiled. Mom squeezed his hand. Ryan grinned. Something felt strange immediately. Then Dad said words I'll never forget. "Your mother and I recently updated our estate plan." My stomach tightened. Dad continued. "When the time comes, everything will go to Ryan." Silence. Absolute silence. I thought I had misheard. Surely there was more. Some explanation. Some joke. But there wasn't. Ryan looked shocked. Mom looked nervous. Emily froze beside me. I stared across the table. "What?" Dad cleared his throat. "The house. The savings. The property. Everything." I laughed. Not because it was funny, because my brain couldn't process what I'd heard. I looked directly at Mom. "Are you serious?" She wouldn't meet my eyes. Dad spoke again. "It's what's best for the family." I felt my face burning. Best for the family? Nobody answered. I pushed back my chair. "You mean the house I've been paying for?" Still silence. Ryan finally spoke. Daniel, don't make a scene. I looked at him. For a moment, I genuinely didn't recognize my own brother. You knew? Ryan looked away. That was answer enough. Emily grabbed my arm, trying to calm me. But 12 years of frustration exploded all at once. 12 years, I shouted. 12 years I paid your mortgage. People around the restaurant stared. I didn't care. Nobody at that table denied it, because they couldn't. They all knew it was true. Dad's expression hardened. We never forced you. The words hit harder than anything else. We never forced you, as though 12 years of sacrifice meant nothing. As though family loyalty had been a foolish mistake. I stood there trembling. Then I left. Emily followed me into the parking lot. I sat inside my truck for nearly an hour, unable to speak, unable to think, unable to understand how the people I'd spent 12 years helping could betray me so completely. But that wasn't even the worst part. Because 3 days later, I received a phone call. And that phone call led me to a discovery hidden inside my parents' house. A discovery that would reveal a secret buried for over 30 years. A secret involving my brother. My parents, and a letter they thought nobody would ever find. The caller's first words made my blood run cold. Daniel, I think your parents have been lying to you your entire life. And before I could ask another question, she told me where to look. In the basement, behind the old furnace. Inside the wall. The place where the letter had been hidden. For decades. I drove there immediately, never imagining what I was about to uncover, or how it would destroy everything I thought I knew about my family. Daniel gripped the steering wheel so tightly that his knuckles turned white. The caller's words echoed through his mind the entire drive. Your parents have been lying to you your entire life. Who was she? Why had she waited until now? And what could possibly be hidden inside a wall that would explain 12 years of sacrifice and betrayal? Rain hammered against the windshield as he pulled into his parents' driveway. The house looked exactly the same white siding, the same porch swing, the same maple tree he had climbed as a child. But for the first time in his life, it didn't feel like home. It felt like a crime scene. Daniel parked down the street. He didn't want his parents noticing him. Not yet. He waited until the lights inside went dark, then he walked around to the back of the property. His heart pounded. He still had a key. After all, he had practically paid for the house. The lock clicked. The back door opened. The familiar smell hit him instantly. Old wood, dust, memories. For a moment, guilt crept into his chest. Then he remembered the anniversary dinner, the will, the humiliation, the lies. The guilt vanished. He headed downstairs. The basement was darker than he remembered. The old furnace sat exactly where it always had. Massive, rusty, ancient. Daniel turned on his flashlight. The caller had been specific. Behind the furnace, inside the wall. He squeezed behind it. Cobwebs brushed his face. Dust coated his clothes. Then he saw something unusual. One section of drywall looked newer than the rest, barely noticeable, unless someone knew where to look. Daniel stared. His pulse accelerated. Slowly, he pushed against the panel. It moved. A hidden compartment. His stomach dropped. Someone had built it intentionally. He removed the panel. Inside sat a metal box. Nothing else, just a small lockbox covered in dust. Daniel pulled it out. The lock had rusted years ago. One hard tug broke it open. Inside were photographs, documents, and a single yellow envelope. The envelope had one word written across the front. His hands started shaking. Someone had written his name decades earlier. Slowly, he opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter. The date stopped him cold. 31 years ago. 1 year before he was born. His eyes raced across the page. Then the world tilted beneath him, because the signature at the bottom wasn't his father's. It belonged to another man, a man named Michael Reynolds. Daniel had never heard that name before. But the contents of the letter changed everything. If you're reading this, then Linda finally told you the truth. If she didn't, then I am sorry. You deserve better than the secrets we agreed to keep. Daniel's breathing became shallow. He kept reading. I am your biological father. The basement seemed to spin. His biological father, not Thomas Carter, not the man who raised him, not the man whose mortgage he had paid for 12 years. Someone else. Daniel nearly dropped the letter. His legs weakened. He sat on the cold concrete floor. Then he continued reading. Every sentence hit harder than the last. Michael explained that he and Linda had been involved before she married Thomas. When Linda became pregnant, everything became complicated. Thomas agreed to raise the child as his own. On one condition, the truth would never be revealed. Michael eventually moved away, but before leaving, he established a trust fund, a substantial one, money intended for Daniel when he became an adult. Daniel stopped breathing. A trust fund? He turned the page. There were account numbers, legal references, attorney signatures. Everything appeared genuine. Then came the sentence that made his blood run cold. If this letter reaches you, it likely means the trust was never delivered. If that's true, someone stole what belonged to you. Daniel's entire body froze. Someone stole it. Who? Why? His eyes moved to the final paragraph. The trust was worth approximately $1.8 million when established. It should be significantly larger today. Daniel stared at the number, $1.8 million. 31 years ago, invested over decades. The amount today could be enormous. His hands trembled. Suddenly footsteps sounded upstairs. He jumped. Voices. His parents. They were awake. Panic surged through him. Quickly, he gathered everything and slipped behind a stack of storage boxes. Mom and Dad entered the basement moments later. Daniel could hear every word, every single word, and what they said shattered the last pieces of trust he still had.